Hi, my name is Amory Burdett, and this is my Georgia Code of Ethics project for the Managing Human Capital course in the summer semester of 2024. Before I begin this presentation, I did want to go over a few definitions that I came up with for the roles involved in each of these scenarios and for the code of ethics so that I had a better understanding of each in the scenarios. So the Code of Ethics is a conglomeration of rules and statutes that are to be followed to maintain ethical conduct of all educators. A principal is a person responsible for the safety, education, and well-being of staff and students in an educational environment. And the Human Resources Department is the department responsible for managing the personnel within a school. Ultimately, the Human Resources Department and the principal work hand in hand in order to uphold the Code of Ethics. The first scenario involves a teacher who is offering tutoring services for payment to parents of students in her class in order to fill gaps caused by the pandemic. This is in direct violation to Standard 6.3, explaining that tutoring students assigned to the educator for remuneration without approval from the local Board of Education is not right. As a principal, I would get access to see the Facebook post after being made aware of the situation and screenshot that to hold onto it for proof. I would communicate with the HR department and send them that screenshot so that they could put it in their records. And then I would address the teacher to explain to her that this was a problem, it's not following the Code of Ethics, and further investigation would need to happen. At that point, the Human Resources Office would follow their procedures to report the violation of tutoring for compensation without permission to the Georgia Professional Standards Commission. For scenario 2, in this situation, Ms. Bennett, who has signed the contract, is now telling you, never mind, I'm going to go to a different school, I've signed their contract, see you later. In this situation, it is a direct violation of Standard 9 of the Code of Ethics, where it says that unethical conduct is based on the resignation, which equates to a breach of contract. And that is exactly what has happened here. My role as a principal would be to send the email to our Human Resources Department and let them handle it from there, since I did not have a relationship with Ms. Bennett prior to that email other than an interview. The Human Resources role would be to follow the procedures to report the breach of contract to the Georgia PSC and reply to Ms. Bennett's email, copying me as the principal, explaining the problem and the process of reporting so that she was not flabbergasted or super surprised when the Georgia PSC reached out to her. In scenario number 3, it was a little bit of a different scenario because it didn't necessarily show that there were any violations. So instead, the standard that would become in action would be Standard 8.3, where the educator would have to report any alleged violation of state law as soon as possible, but no later than 90 days after the report was made or after the educator was made aware of the situation. So in this case, this would be an assault of a student. And so my role as a principal, after she has shared this with me, is to immediately report the assault to the proper authorities and share the documentation with Human Resources. The Human Resources Department would then keep record that procedures in compliance with the Code of Ethics happened and be able to confirm that we followed all the correct processes. In scenario 4, a principal's worst nightmare happens and they find out that one of their teachers has been arrested. This is in violation of Standard 9 of the Code of Ethics that demonstrates unprofessional conduct that diminishes the certificate holder's ability to function professionally in his or her employment position. If you are arrested and in jail, you cannot teach. Therefore, as a principal, you would ensure that the Human Resources has been made aware and they have a copy of the paper as proof. and you would begin to plan for a replacement in the classroom. I think as a part of our school, our principal would go a step further to check on the family of the teacher to make sure if there was anything we could do to support them in this time, that we would do our best in order to do that. But that was a little bit on the side note of the professional things. In the Human Resources Department, their job would be to retain the records of arrest as a confirmation of violation and continue to investigate to confirm the violation, report the violation to the Georgia PSC, and communicate via email, would be my guess, with Mr. Darcy about the process of about the processes being followed based on the information we've learned and what is legal. In scenario number 5, you have 2 teachers who take professional leave, but they call it sick leave. Let me rephrase that. They take leave and they call it sick leave when really it's personal leave time. And so this is in direct violation of Standard 4.4 about honesty. So they gave a dishonest reason for their absence. As a principal, I would screenshot the picture of the teachers at the game, send it to Human Resources and make sure they were aware, and then plan to meet with the teachers and Human Resources to confirm the dishonesty that they displayed and explain the violation and why it was wrong and against the Code of Ethics. The Human Resources Department then would communicate the process of reporting with the teachers so they were aware of what the steps would be, and then report the violation of honesty to the Georgia Professional Standards Commission. In this situation, for scenario 6, a teacher feels backed into a corner and feels that the only way out is to share confidential information with a parent, which is in direct violation of Standard 7.1. As a principal, I would most certainly meet with the teacher to confirm the violation and explain why it was wrong, report the violation to Human Resources, and then meet with the parent to make sure they felt heard and that every student is being treated equally with every teacher, and build that relationship. The Human Resources Department would communicate the process of reporting with the teacher and report the violation of confidentiality to the Georgia PSC. In scenario 7, 2 teachers show up to a school-related event under the influence of alcohol. This is in direct violation to Standard 3.2. In this situation, it is interesting because in the standard, it explains that there are indicators of being under the influence, and it does not mention having the smell of being intoxicated, but it does, however, say including but not limited to. So in this situation where it says they smell of alcohol, I would assume that that is under the clause including but not limited to. So as a principal, if I am there at the game and I am told or witness this situation, I would most certainly have the officer on duty remove the teachers from the premises, report the violation to Human Resources, and then meet with the teachers and Human Resources on Monday to address the behavior and consequences for their actions. The Human Resources would communicate the process with the teachers in violation, and they would report the violation of being under the influence at the school event to the Georgia Professional Standards Commission. In scenario 8, a teacher takes a picture of a standardized test and continues and shares it with friends, colleagues, which is a major problem. Which is also in violation of Standard 7.3, copying identified test items and discussing test items via text. As a principal, I would obtain the picture of the test from the teachers that received it as proof of violation and send that to Human Resources so that they can have that for their records. I would immediately address the teacher in violation to explain the problem and ensure that it would not happen. And she would probably be removed from the classroom for the remainder of the testing week. The Human Resources Department would communicate the process of reporting with the teacher and report the violation of the breach of confidentiality to the Georgia PSC. In scenario 9, we have a teacher who's collecting money for this Sunshine Fund and puts it in a personal checking account. This is not appropriate. It is in violation of Standard 5.4, commingling school-related funds as well as public funds and putting them together in her own checking account. As a principal, I would inform Human Resources of the situation, meet with the teacher to confirm that this is happening, address the teacher about the violation so that she's aware that it is in direct violation of the Code of Ethics, and ask that the funds be immediately removed from her personal account. The Human Resources role, again, would be to communicate the process of reporting with the teacher and report the violation to the Georgia PSC. Finally, in scenario number 10, a teacher does not share that he was once convicted of a felony of shoplifting when he was in college. This is in direct violation of Standard 4.1, of omitting criminal history and is not honest. As a principal, I would inform Human Resources of the potential omission and meet with the teacher to confirm the alleged criminal history and explain the problem of omitting that important information, as it is a violation of the Code of Ethics. The Human Resources role would be to communicate the process of reporting with the teacher and report the violation to the Georgia PSC. In each of these scenarios, there are clear violations of the Code of Ethics, and a principal and Human Resources job is to make sure the students and staff at a school are safe and taken care of and are able to do their job of educating students and learning in the best way possible. The environment must be protected by the Human Resources Department and the principal. By staying on top of making sure the Code of Ethics are being upheld and followed, their school can have the best atmosphere for the greatest success for all involved.